My people, welcome back to another podcast episode. We're in today for episode 136. Very, very excited to go through today's episode, and most importantly, just glad to be back doing podcasts. It's something that I just massively enjoy doing and seeing the impact that it has on you guys as well as the feedback. It always, nothing goes unnoticed and it only drives me to do more. So I guess it's a wrap up for this sort of week so far. It's been quite productive. It's really just been spent, planning, getting on with just tasks that need to be done. I always approach the new year with caution, around if you look at the people that you're speaking to, the things that you're seeing on social media, it's very easy to get stuck into this trap of sort of, new year, new me, and just same old cycles. And in some ways, it can get very toxic because whilst it has good intentions, it more times than not does the complete opposite. Very easy to just write down your goals, go to the gym, and come February, you're pretty much back at square one. I mean, dry January is the most retarded thing that I've ever heard of. It's the same as what's the name of it now? Sober October. Again, completely retarded. These things make no sense, and it's sort of the whole idea with like even going into like NoFap and stuff like that. The second you begin to put a clock on something, is because you eventually plan subconsciously on going back to square one at one point. So this period in time, it's best to just sort of keep your head down. Your visions really shouldn't really change that much. Like my goals haven't changed that much. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't box off last year that needs to be boxed off this year. There's also a lot of stuff that just simply needs improving and developing. And it sort of does ties into today's episode because I've essentially put together a workshop. So we're going to call it the self-development workshop. We've done a couple of workshops before. I quite enjoyed them. They're quite valuable. Can break down a lot of stuff and just go through some sort of easy to follow instructions that you can apply and sort of deploy into your routine, your character, and your own visions and targets. So the main sort of concept of this workshop is to teach you certain cues, certain behavioral patterns and mindset shifts that you can actually start to apply to develop yourself. There was many things that I could have called this. I could have called it self improvement. I could have called it a better you podcast. There were tons of different things. Ultimately, I don't think that there's anything wrong with any of you guys listening to this. And even if you look in the mirror and you could be on your phone and you see someone else in your field and appear to be doing better than you, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. I just believe that there is always something that we can be doing. For example, the time right now, I know this is out on a Monday, but I filmed this on a Sunday. Time is currently about 10:15. So I've got a couple of tasks. It's a bit of a late night tonight, but the thing that I will think about as soon as my head hits the pillow is could I have done more and did I get everything done? And for me, as long as I plan my day out, I find peace and completion. I tick all the boxes. But for me, it's that development never stops. Improving is sometimes notifying that you have to go from bad to good. And again, there's nothing wrong with you guys. I just feel like what we're working on, what we're working towards, it's much easier to develop than it is to improve. Development takes time and it's going from one stage to another. So the premise of this podcast is to allow you to develop in certain areas of your life to get from the stage that you're in now to the stage that you want to go towards. A little bit of an update on myself. We've spent a lot of this year, we're about a week or two in. We've just been doing a lot of reading on my day-to-day basis. I've just been reading a lot, and I'm been reading Letters from Seneca. So, Letters from a Stoic, really, really good book. And I seen a clip, it was only like 10, 15 seconds on the power of social media today is crazy. It was of Jordan Peterson, and I dipped in and out of it before. I've always sort of made annotations, but I've been learning to read, which I know if you're listening sounds pretty odd, you're wondering like what man can't read, but I've legitimately been learning how to read, and I've read so many books. I'm literally completed another bookcase, so I had one, completed it, had another, completed it, because I've just got so many books. I've read so much. Any sort of self-development business book, chances are I've already read it. But I didn't retain much information. I've read Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I think I read it in about 5 days. And there's some stuff that is retained well, but a lot of the information I wasn't retaining any of it. And the short clip I saw of Peterson was just basically going over some easy to follow points on how to actually read. So what I actually do now is I'll obviously read the book, of course, I'll take it word by word, but I'll have a highlighter with me, I'll have a pen, and I'll have some post-it notes. So the actual time taken to get through a book is considerably longer. But what we have now is actually reinforcement of the information you're taking in. I used to read books to just say that I'd read them, to sort of like in some sense that maybe my subconscious mind would just flick a magic switch and I'd, become the rich dad as opposed to the poor dad. And as I've sort of taken a step back from that and actually learned how to read, take a little bit more time to get through books. You know, this Letters from a Stoic. What you essentially do is you'll read the book, and anything that sort of jumps out to you, anything that needs breaking down, you highlight it, take a post-it note, write down it in your own words, or even if you're just repeating it, when you teach something to someone or you read something and write it down yourself, you're reinforcing what's going into your brain, and you're increasing the chances of it sort of remaining in your mind and you're actually retaining that piece of information. And it's helped me so much. I've been, understanding situations different, my perspectives changed. Stoicism is something that it's weird because it's not quite a religion, but it's a new narrative that really resonates well and has helped me a lot. Stoicism, and it's crazy the sheer like enlightenment and mindset and take on life these guys had. TVs weren't even invented. We didn't even know like there were certain planets in the galaxy that we didn't even know existed, and these guys are talking such wisdom and such impactful knowledge that is just completely unheard of in today's time. So it's almost like we've gone backwards but forwards in so many different areas of society. It's crazy. But I guess sort of going into the actual podcast itself and the bulk of the workshop, what we should really sort of start off here is sort of clarity. You can't, whether it be development, improvement, correction, whatever way you want to spin this podcast and label it, you can't really do anything without having clarity. To be everywhere is to be nowhere, and to speak to everyone is to speak to no one. You need to have clarity with everything that you do. A simple way to sort of understand this is if I was to speak to someone and say, what do you want right now? Majority of people are going to go more money. And I could literally just give them a penny, a pound, a £5 note, quite minuscule in regards to money and wealth. And I right there have just solved their problems. But we both know that they're going to look at that and think, what on earth is this? I said I wanted more money. But they've had their money before we had that conversation. By me giving that small amount of money now, I have given them more money by definition. And the premise of that is that you need to be clear on what it is that you want. If you want more money, define an amount. Is it six figures? Is it 100,000? Is it 900k? Is it 1.2 million? Is it 1.5, 1.6 to buy something? The more that you can be clear on things that you want, the easier it's going to be to develop because you know where it is that you want to go. As we sort of covered in the beginning of this podcast, development is going from one stage to another. The reason why so many people get so lost and so sort of into a loop with these sort of new year, new me cycles is because there's no end destination, there is no target to be achieved. A lot of you may or may not have seen Suits. I don't really sort of indulge in much sort of TV or shows, mainly because I don't have time, but with my sort of monk mode protocol it takes up, it's quite an intense protocol that I'm following. So what I have is that every Saturday I'll usually sort of see my partner, and Saturday I call it my human day because the remaining 6 other days I call them robot days. I literally just work, and if I'm feeling tired I'm like, robots don't get tired. If the weather's cold I'm like, robots don't feel the weather. And so with that sort of such intense focus comes the human day. So the human day, I'll make time to go play some snooker, spend some time, and obviously I'll indulge in a couple of sort of like series, seasons, what I may be watching. Suits is one of them, and one of the sort of sayings is that he doesn't have goals, he has targets. Once he boxes off one, he's straight on to another. And you can't get out of any stage that you're in right now. You can't move forward. You can't go into that next stage that you want to. When you're looking in the mirror, when you're setting out these goals, watching all this motivational stuff on social media, you can't get into those situations if you aren't clear on where it is that you need to be. And even if you have to pause the podcast, pause it, come back to it, listen to the rest tomorrow. Make sure that when you are defining these landmarks, these situations, these destinations, these targets you want to achieve, make sure that they are for the better of you. It's very easy, especially with men. I know that the majority of this podcast with male listeners, with especially if you're single, or even if you're sort of in a relationship where you're not quite fulfilled, it's very easy to sort of let the woman lead the way or let the woman be the bulk of your life, but you cannot have it like that. You have to make sure that you are first and your goals go first. It's a harsh pill, it's a harsh perspective to take on, but you need to understand that the more that you can put yourself first, the more that you can, prioritize yourself, the better your partner, girls will respect you because you need to sort of, instead of seeking a partner, seek the partner that you want to reflect, so to say, and looking into your actions, looking into your targets, if they're set for the validation of people, if they're set just to fit in, then as soon as you hit that target and the narrative changes, all of a sudden girls decide they want 5 foot guys instead of 6 foot guys. We are fucked because you've got to change again. And they'll see that and they'll see that, right, well, this guy, he changes based on what I say, so what can I actually gain from him? And this doesn't just necessarily go for women, this goes for friends, people. If you're a business person and you need to impact people, start building rapport, relationships with your audience, they're not going to respect you because you're constantly changing and you're constantly saying one thing one day and one thing another day. Whatever you permit, whatever you share, whatever you act, whatever you do, sets the tone for how your audience will reflect and, you know, sort of perceive you, so to say. So if you're not sort of setting these targets that aren't for the best interest of you, that aren't actually designed to bring out and work and push you towards that most powerful version of you, people are not going to respect you. You're going to feel unfulfilled, and you're just going to be in a cycle of just unhappiness. I've been there. As we covered on the last podcast, I haven't quite yet been a rich man and a poor man, but I've been a low value man and a rising high value man. I choose high value every single time. My life when I just craved validation with people was so chaotic and broken. There was no patterns. One day people could love me, one day people could hate me, and my mood would be directly correlated from that. Mine was mainly female derived as well, so I was always just needing, like, I'd just be in random conversations and I'd just give away too much information. Like, if I'd done something that day, I needed to be told that I'd done a good job, and if I didn't get told that, I'd be like, oh, well, it's worth nothing now. Whereas now, I make the calls. If I've done good today, I've done good. If I've not done good, I'll be the one to create the repercussions of that. And learning to sort of, stand on your own 2 feet, have clarity, set your goals, but make sure that it's for the better of yourself is so, so, so important. And I guess sort of transitioning to the next point now would be work ethic. Work ethic is something that is you can't physically see, but it's something that you want to hold on to extremely tight. When I'm sort of speaking to people, or this will happen if I'm on social media and I go into an environment like a gym and someone sees me from social media, work ethic will be often something that they sort of point out. They'll be like, I love your content, you're always up early, you always seem to be doing something. Work ethic is something that sort of is identifiable for me. It's something that I hold extremely close to me. You could come to me, you could be the CIA, you could literally be some sort of like cartel, army, government. You could literally come to me, pin me up against the wall, take everything that I have, money, house, home, car, everything. You work ethic is something that you couldn't take away from me at all. It's just mine. It's something I cherish very closely. The reason why work ethic is so important is because you just need to make sure that you're raising the standard, because everything that society puts forward to us is all geared towards taking work ethic away from us. And yes, there's obviously talks of masculinity and mindset and self-development, but work ethic is something that is being stolen from us right from underneath our feet. And because people are so succumbed to the man on the TV screen and whatever's being pushed forward because we want to fit in, we're just completely unaware of it. Your work ethic is how well you can do a task. We're always focused on, getting stuff done. I've been to the gym 6 times this week. I've read 8 books, and again, I've been in this stage. I've read a book this week. I listened to this Diary of a CEO podcast, and nobody really cares if the actual quality of that is completely dog shit. If you're going to the gym 6 times a week, or you're listening to a podcast, or you're on your phone half the time, scrolling social media, looking at girls with their asses out, or you're going to the gym and just completely winging it, and again, going on your phone, looking at girls with their asses out, what, how is that going to do anything? These are the harsh conversations that you've got to have with yourself, and you can sort of sense me now, just sort of getting a bit like almost argue with it, but you just almost got to think, right, this is happening. What relevance does this have to my goal? How is this of any use right now? And if you can sort of find yourself in that situation, think, right, this isn't doing anything. I'm doing the right action, but I'm not getting the right result that I want from it. You need to change, and you need to change it quick. The reason for that is because your work ethic is the one thing that will take you from where you are right now to where you need to be. At the end of the day, we're going to be doing this podcast in another year's time, 2024. If you haven't changed, it's your fault. It's completely your fault. So you need to make sure that it's you that is, raising the standards, actually, creating a stronger work ethic. People will respect you for it so much more. And if you do go into the service-based industries, coaching, social media marketing agencies, could be a tradesman, it could be anything. People respect you more. You'll build better relationships with your clients. People understand you more. And even again, just sort of as you listen to my tone there, it sort of puts me into the next point, which is aggressiveness. Now, aggressiveness is never a bad thing. It's something again we're pushed to think, right, men shouldn't be aggressive. It's toxic. It's this. It's that. It's forceful. It's not all. As for those of you that do know Jordan B. Peterson, it's very, very impactful man. Helps me a lot. And one of the things that he mentions is that we should aim to be monsters. We should aim to be very, very dangerous men. But the real power lies in how well you can control, how well you can learn to put that away when it needs to be put away and learn to apply it and bring it out. It needs to be brought out. Aggressiveness is something that you need to carry with you in your self development journey. Now, this doesn't mean, you need to go around fighting people and you need to be highly reactive with your emotions. It doesn't mean at all. What I mean by aggressiveness is how well you can attack and apply yourself to a task. Did you ever used to have your parents' evenings? Teachers would always say, he's doing good in lessons, but he just needs to apply himself more. The aggressiveness is an exact extension of that statement. If you can learn to apply yourself and be more aggressive with your actions, you'll not only get there faster, but you'll get there in a way that will put you levels above the current modern day man, levels above your competition. So just by being more aggressive, you not only gain a head start on your competition, you gain a head start on yourself. Now, there are certain with such speed will come missed details, and aggressiveness is something that I always take when it comes into setting my goals. Grant Cardone with his 10x method. I've got goals that if I set out a goal, I'll be like, right, it's some people will do it in this time. How can I do it in 2 days? Instead of saying, right, I want to do a 10K month, I'll be like, right, I want to be a millionaire by 35. So how can I do it in 2 years? And of course, I'm not going to be a millionaire in 2 years, but at least if I try and I apply myself with that level of aggressiveness, I'll get there a hell of a lot more than waiting until I was 35 to do so, won't I? It's just a simple, simple process. So yes, with aggressiveness, it does have its caveats in the sense that you may miss certain stuff along the way. You may sort of, there'll be a couple of areas for improvement, but as you would with every journey, of course, there's going to be areas for improvement. Of course, there's going to be mistakes. In fact, you should thank yourselves lucky that you can make these mistakes so early on so that you can learn from them, develop from them. And then when you do start getting to these levels and you do start seeing the work come through, you'll know exactly what it is that you need to change so that you don't encounter these things again. And then sort of on the other side of that, I feel like as well, everything has balance. There is where there is one emotion that has to be an equally opposite emotion. There is anger, there is calmness, there is water, there is land, there is sun, there is stars. Everything has an equal opposing thing. So I guess on the side of aggressiveness, we also have delayed gratification. You need to be putting in the work now, but understanding that it's not going to happen instantly. You could listen to this podcast that could impact you. You could be on the late night one with me. You could stay up all night, but you need to be at peace with the fact that you're not going to wake up a millionaire. You're not going to wake up with a Lamborghini and a 1010 wife that, respects your values. And you're certainly not going to wake up a high value man. These things take years to come to fruition. These things take years to develop and come to life and for you to hold, to see, to feel, to experience. So the idea of delayed gratification is that as you do understand more, as you do sort of commit and apply yourself to the process, you cover all of these points, you will eventually know that you will be rewarded. It just won't be now. Because if you want different, you have to move different. These things that you're wishing for, these things that you're desiring from us, are not going to come easy. Every time you say that you want to go after a target, something that doesn't fit the current norm, you're basically sending a telegram to the boys upstairs, to life itself, that you want it hard, that you are not going against what they say and you're taking a different route. And they're going to make it hard, they're going to make it tough, they're going to put barriers in your way. But the idea of delayed gratification is that you'll be at peace with the fact that knowing, right, I'm putting in the work now, it may not work straight away, may not pay off well, in the short term, but the long term, it will pay off. That's the power of delayed gratification. The final point I want to cover is accountability. Now, when I sort of how I was growing up in care, I wasn't taught nothing. There was no life lessons whatsoever. Very, very bad environment. And whilst yes, they provided a roof over my head, at the end of the day, and this came up in like multiple arguments, I was just a job at the end of the day. And the idea of sort of accountability is that as soon as I turned 18, I was just out. Within a couple of days, I was out, and I just had the world on my own. So there was not much room to sort of go through that nurturing phase of like, right, I get to club, I get to travel. There was none of that. It was straight up survival. Didn't know anything about bills, didn't know anything about like council tax or like having the money to learn to drive or anything like that. So there was no level of accountability. I had to learn as I went on the go. But as we get into our adult roles, we transition into the sort of we rise the ranks of high value. We have to learn to be accountable. You have to learn to take care of your finances, fill out that paperwork, apply for the right jobs. If you've got a project on, you need to make sure that you're doing these right things. Accountability is absolutely everything. And the good thing is you could be like me where you don't have all the answers right now and you haven't really got someone leading the way. But as long as you sort of take time to just be open minded and learn to, if you learn and make a mistake, you learn from it, you continue to move past it. There's loads of stuff that I used to fuck up on and mess up on all the time. There's loads of stuff that I should have done differently, but I can't go back and change that. I'm at peace with that. And being accountable means that you need to be accountable across the board. Be accountable for how you track your sleep, your training, your nutrition, but also be accountable for how you're feeling mentally. Be accountable for the fact that if you didn't perform that day, are you going to call yourself out on it? Are you going to improve? Are you going to, go to bed, wake up, and make sure that you apply yourself the next day? Because if not, this entire thing comes crumbling down. If you've built it up to be strong, to be powerful, you don't want to be the one to take it all down. Because at the end of the day, it's on you to get you where you need to be, as we've covered. So I guess we're going to wrap up the podcast there. Solo episodes we generally don't really go on for ages, just because it's me. Can't imagine you want to listen to a Yorkshireman for over an hour straight. So we keep it short and sweet, but I would imagine by this podcast we keep it impactful and we keep it worthwhile so that you can go away today and you can listen to this and you can make sure that you know exactly what it is that you need to do, what it is that needs working to actually start your self development journey. So I'll see you guys for the next episode shortly.